Gamers have never been challenged by anything in media in their lives, so as soon as they got a story that expected some emotional maturity, they turned it into the biggest culture war moment in the history of the medium. This is just another Sunday night for TV audiences LMAO. Last of Us Season 2, it was rated the highest of the series with 9.5 out of 10. I think the tomato meter for audience score, though, I think was like 50, which is pretty bad. Like, that's like half of the score, right? There was like a thing where people were like, oh my god, I hate gamers because they're review bombing episode 2, and it's like, no, I don't think people care enough to go do that. Maybe they do. Maybe there's some really immature people out there that are doing that. Objectively, the story for Last of Us 2 is not good. And it could have been. I talked about this the other day, but I'm going to go into more detail, okay? I'm going to talk about this because I want to actually deep dive into what I don't like about The Last of Us 2. My issue is not that, spoiler warning, that Joel dies. But let me pull out my little handy dandy paint, okay? I'm gonna show you how I think this should have been handled, okay? A big gripe that people have with The Last of Us 2 is that you have to play as Abby, okay? So here's the entire timeline for The Last of Us 2, okay? Here's the beginning. You have Ellie and E plus J at the beginning of the story. Then around like the I don't even think it's like the 20% mark of the story, you have Joel get killed. You have him die, right? And that's one thing, right? Like that's one thing that happens in the story. And at the same time, you're also playing as Abby. You don't even play as Abby, I don't think, in the beginning. You're just playing as these two, and you get to this point, and Joel dies. Then, right after this point, you start playing as Abby, and you start seeing her story get, like, told throughout the entire story, all the way to the end. But audiences are only focused on this. You're just thinking about how this character killed the main protagonist of the game that you had just played prior, and also the main character of the story from Last of Us Season 1 if you're only a TV watcher. And they did the exact same thing in the Last of Us TV show. They executed it the exact same way. I think some people are debating on whether, you know, the TV version was portrayed better or the game version was portrayed better. In my opinion, I just think it's fine to have Abby kill Joel, but not this early. So here's what I would have done instead, okay? Instead of this and it turning into a giant revenge story with Ellie chasing after Abby for having killed Joel, here's what I would have done instead. You have Ellie plus Joel. Also, I forgot to mention before I even get to that point, after the point of Joel dying, there are a bunch of flashbacks with Ellie that go prior to this timeline even happening. It's like prior to the age that any character is in this overall timeline here. That's fine, right? Here's what I would have done instead. You should have started the game playing as Abby. You are slowly, as the beginning of the story goes on, you are slowly discovering somebody killed your father. You don't know who killed your father. You know that, you know, he's a surgeon. You know all of these things. Slowly, as the story is going on, you figure out the person that killed your father, who is the surgeon. There's no big indicator that he was a Firefly surgeon. He's just a surgeon in this perspective of the story as you're playing as them, okay? At the middle of the story, from Abby's perspective, there can be like time skips around here, but you know, Abby's trying to figure out what happened to her dad. Halfway through the story, you find out, boom, it was Joel. That was the person that killed her father. And in this halfway mark, she goes and finds Joel and kills him. This entire time that you're with her, you get the really human aspects of Abby without immediately tossing her into the story only for her to be unlikable. You build up this entire first half of the story to really have the audience be like, wait, I kind of like this character. You really show that, right? And then you show in chronological order, including any time skips that you had over here with Abby, the relationship between Ellie and Joel becomes strained. Because in The Last of Us 2, there is a flashback where Ellie finds out that Joel was lying about what he did to the Fireflies because she was immune to the infection and that she was going to go under surgery to be used as a cure. So you see their relationship get fractured. You see these time skips happen over time. And then eventually, at the middle of the story, somehow, some way, Abby, Joel, and Ellie are all in the same spot. And because the relationship is fractured between Ellie and Joel, and because you've spent all this time getting to know Abby and you kind of start liking her as a character because she hasn't done anything crazy yet, you are now thinking, damn, Joel kind of is an asshole because he's not supposed to be a perfect hero. That's literally what the entire moral of the story of the first game is. But now, characters in the actual universe are dealing with that concept instead of it just being you, the viewer, knowing that Joel lied to Ellie. So now Joel gets killed and you're like, wait, I know Joel killed this character's father that I really like, and I know that he lied to Ellie, so I get why he died, but damn, I really wish he didn't die. And now also, I'm stuck with Ellie, who I really like, and I'm stuck with Abby, who I really like, and Ellie wants to kill Abby, and it's like, fuck, what? Oh my god. Now the stakes are set where you're like, damn, I kind of like Abby, but I also really like Ellie. And the rest of the story goes as it normally would, where Ellie's trying to chase down Abby, and Ellie comes to the realization that revenge is bad, and that's okay. Revenge can be the moral of the story. Revenge is bad. It can be the moral of the story. I'm not against that, but the way you get there needs to make sense. I don't care about, oh, dude, it went well, dude, oh, dude, this and that. I don't care about that. What I care about is the story making sense, and the story absolutely doesn't make any sense the way it's currently written. Make it to where it's a big emotional moment that is built up to that you don't know how you feel about because you've seen the complexity that you built up in the first game and what you build in the first half of this game. That's what I'm saying. Does this make sense? I think trying to say that gamers are not challenged by anything in media, what are we talking about, dude? Some of the best emotional narratives can come from games. Not all of them, obviously. I think there are plenty more TV shows and movies that do an emotional heavy lifting feat than games do. But you have games like Red Dead, God of War, Last of Us 1. You have all sorts of games out there that I couldn't name you a bunch of them right now because it's just off the top of the dome. There are plenty of games that go into the moral gray, that go into the really hardcore emotional, that like trying to write it off is just incorrect. You're just wrong. This is obviously like a little bit of rage bait, but it's like, I don't think most people who watched or played The Last of Us 2 are mad that Joel dies or that Abby kills him. And it's like, I think there's a really small sector of people that are really loud, and I think those people have really tainted a lot of people's experience when going into this. But I think most people like me, most rational thinking people, really just want a good story that makes sense and doesn't just frustrate you because it's held together by duct tape. The pacing in The Last of Us 2 is awful because you just know it's a revenge story, and it doesn't pay off because Ellie doesn't even kill Abby. I care the most about a story being told.